Carlson's. They will be uploaded to the website. One of the emails was the demographic and educational analysis that Mr. Carlson ran regarding the enrollment projection over the next few years, taking a look at both New Hartford K through 6 as well as Regional 7. So that will be available on the website for people to read through on that.
Are we commenting on this?
Yeah, I do want to take up, I think I'm open to like commenting on it. So I think Mr. Carlson's not here tonight, so I don't want to like get into like too much of it here. This is a really in-depth analysis that he did with an alternative look at potential enrollment for the schools. One action item that Michelle and I are going to take is to have our consultant who did the enrollment go through and take a look at this and help us better understand what the state would accept versus like what else like might be going on here, to help us kind of like figure out how to triangulate the two between them. They're different methodologies, they're looking at different data points. So I'm hoping to get additional information about like what the state requires. Part of what we did was work that the state requires for us to understand funding and so on and so forth. So I do want to understand that with a professional setting before we take any further action from here. But if anybody has any questions about that action item or has any other thoughts regarding the analysis, I'm open to comments from the task force.
I didn't see where he got his data from.
Where what?
I didn't see where Mr. Carlson got his data from. I didn't see any reference to
You're looking for the data sources?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Packet. That was something that I had seen as well. It didn't cite the source.
Yep, okay. I can follow up and ask him for the data sources to be amended to this.
There's appreciate anyone's input and perspective as we go through this process, and the report there, since we are discussing it in a public setting, there's a fundamental assumption of the 0.09, so basically saying that 10% does not continue year to year, although the data from the past 10 years shows the student enrollment increases by between 9 and 12 students per year on average. And so if you were to rerun those numbers, it would come out with a dramatically different outcome, actually very similar to what the consultant did. I'm not trying to support the consultant's work, but just noting that the sensitivity analysis is extremely high on that one variable, which does differ from the historical data that is public data for everyone to see. And so we can look at further into this, but it just would want to note that there's a key difference between historical data and the fundamental assumption in that report or that analysis.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I noticed that as well. And again, that's kind of what I wanted to make sure I understood some of the methodology that went into this. The other component that is not in this analysis that is part of the analysis that we're using for the programming is what the population looks like by grade, by year over the next 10 years, because this is just really totaling everything up, which does make it difficult for us to understand resourcing across buildings or anything from that regard. So again, I want to make sure that we're taking from this what is usable or like anything that we need to consider from this while understanding what's going on from there. So I'll ask Mr. Carlson for his data sources so that people can take a look at that. We'll follow up with our enrollment specialist to see if there's anything that is something that we should discuss, and I'll bring it back up at the next meeting. That sounds good to everybody.
And I would just add to that on the conversation, since there's so much information on our website right now, I'd be very cautious of how this is saved, because as people are filtering through, it needs to be, this is somebody's opinion, and it's a well-researched opinion. I'm not questioning where he got his data, but I don't want to cause any confusion as to the data that is up there supported by the consultant that we have hired and has clearly
25 years of experience
in multiple districts, respect anybody's input and opinion, and the amount of time that was put into this is significant.
Yeah.
So I'm not questioning the validity, I just want to make sure that we use this as a data point to question our numbers and not confuse the general public as to its own study.
I think that's a great call out, Carrie. My intention was to make sure that this gets posted on the website along with where we usually attach the attachments for the meetings. We can call it out that like it would be under communication to the task force and not necessarily something as a presentation, but I'll make sure to communicate with that to with Sarah Vogel about that.
Because if I were just to pull this up, they'd be like, oh wow, there's
no, it's a communication to the board.
Like, it's a very professional,
yeah.
well done study.
Yeah.
So in terms of appearance, so just be careful.
Yeah. We had, so that was one communication. We also received another communication from Mr. Carlson discussing a letter on classroom requirements, and he would like us to do some additional analysis and reporting out on classrooms needed. And that's something I'm gonna follow up with the superintendent on how they want to address that, because it's not really a task force initiative, it's really a Board of Ed initiative to kind of figure out what we need for classroom space. So I'll look to the superintendent to help close the loop on that.
Since we're commenting, there's some fundamental differences between what's quoted there as state statute and what the actual state statute is. I say this not to create issues or to push back on anyone's opinion, but this is just, the citation is factually inaccurate. So,
Thank you.
Will you tell us which one that is, so we know when we're reading it?
this letter, right, it's the one-page letter right here.
It was the second communication, so he sent two separate emails. It's called the required number of classrooms as defined by Connecticut General Statute 10-220.
Yeah.
It was my interpretation that this was not accurate as well, but again, I want to get commentary from.
Yeah, just noting, since we're discussing it, this is communication, and like any board in town, and any communication that comes in, it may be fully factual, may not, maybe opinion, may not, but we can't endorse any communications that come to us.
Agreed.
So.
That was it for communications to the task force. Any other questions? Moving on to item C, the task force chair's report. So a couple of things to just note on. One, Michelle and I met with Mike Lucas from the Planning and Zoning office in New Hartford last week to talk about the site conditions at New Hartford Elementary. Michelle will touch on that a little bit later on. Only really got useful information about New Hartford Elementary, as well as some setbacks about Bakerville, but Michelle will talk about that later on. But we did kind of close that loop from that regard. Also, the Board of Ed has agreed to provide some context regarding their analysis of shared services. So follow up with that request and have that available for review before the next meeting that we have, just so that everybody understands what work has been done to look at that in the past and sort of like help contextualize what our educational experts think about that potential option as part of this. The other piece that I wanted to mention too, and again, I'll talk about, we did wind up scheduling 2 additional meetings. One will be Thursday, July 16th. The other will be Thursday, August 20th. I will remind everybody about this at the end of the last meeting. So we'll have a little bit of a break. Yes, ma'am.
Can we just talk about July 16th to make sure you have the proper quorum? Because when I do the math in my head, knowing who won't be able to attend based on conflicts of that evening, I don't necessarily see a quorum. So I think we should just put it out there if it's okay with you.
From the availability that okay, well, yeah. So who is available for July 16th here?
Did I respond yes? I responded.
Yes, because I tried to go back and check this. Yes, and Alicia's available as well.
Okay, it's the RTC meeting that night too, so I assumed she was out. But if she said she's available, then
She did, so we can revisit some of this as well. These dates that we want to put forward were not dates that people had blocked off when they got back to me with their availability. So I got some comments afterwards that people were not available for the dates that I selected, but it was not part of the first half of that. So right now, my understanding is that we have a form for that.
Yeah,
Again, we can administratively, we can catch up with that offline if we need to, if we don't have enough people who are going to be there.
Sorry to interrupt. We have a technical problem.
What's
One of the 2 of you has everyone muted.
How many people do we need?
Be 5 out of the 9.
Would we meet here, Steve?
Yes, yep, I have, those dates have been cleared with the superintendent, so we should have school spacing. I'm happy to turn that back on once.
Once we don't get feedback.
Because I think I told you I have a conflict that month in July for another meeting unless they should change it.
Yeah, and I also said that I cannot do it.
Huh?
I also said that I cannot attend that meeting.
The July one.
Yeah, it's my birthday and my family is coming over.
That is important.
Okay, well then, if Alicia can't come, then we are not at quorum, which means I need to reschedule something, so. I will, damn it, sorry, that's not on.
It's muted.
You have 5.
Great,
Yeah.
Penny,
I'll raise your hand.
you
Yeah.
can't come, right?
No.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
fine, okay,
you're good.
all right,
You're good. And
All right.
then- Yeah.
okay. Okay. Sorry, as expected, it was. But we'll try to do what we can. For those of you who can't make the July meeting, please keep an eye out for your email in advance. I'm happy to, anything that we're looking at that meeting that you have thoughts on, I'm happy to either take that as comments and bring them to the meeting, or again, we can re-add something to the agenda in August, but again, just to kind of keep moving things forward a little bit. That would be great. Okay. And that is it for, oh, that is not really it for the chair's report. I did ask everybody to review the open items and action log via email from the last meeting. I got some comments from John, but not really anybody else. Does anybody feel prepared to talk about that document here, or would you prefer that I collect more information in July? The purpose of this document is to review some of the outstanding questions that we still want answers to help us feel comfortable about making a recommendation. The purpose of itemizing all of that is to make sure that we have a plan for getting that data, as well as that will help us understand what we can commit to from a timeline perspective in terms of wrapping up our work today. So I will take any discussion on that or anything that needs to be added to that if people did have time to look at it, and I can also table that until July if people are not ready to talk about it. I'm not looking at you for any reason.
Looking at me.
I am looking at you.
I did not have time to look at it.
Okay,
Get in.
okay.
There is a bird trying to get in.
Yeah, I don't know why he's so excited about coming tonight, but maybe he's got some thoughts. Did anybody get a chance to read through it? No,
I'll say that.
no.
I looked at it.
Huh?
I didn't realize that I had to respond with any thoughts, so I'd have to look again.
Okay. I will table any further discussion on that until July. If you guys could please review it. If you have any problems accessing it, please let me know again. Or if you don't have capacity to look at, but know what information you're still looking for, please feel free to write me and let me know so I can include it in this. Again, the purpose of this is to understand what information is missing from the work we have done so far to help you feel comfortable about making a decision that you will feel comfortable recommending to the Board of Ed about the use of our school facilities. All right, now I am done.
You still haven't thought about a date? I think the last time we met, somebody asked about an end date.
Well, that's part of why the end date, determining an end date is one of the things that's on here. I don't feel that we can really set a target end date without fully understanding the scope of all of the work that we need to do and understanding where some of that data is going to come from. Because if there's something really important that we don't have a clear path for getting the data on, we either need to decide if somebody can make, whether or not we're going to do that analysis. But my goal would be to try to get to a place where we can have a committed end date, by the end of the summer, so that we can be driving this towards a decision. Ben, you look like you have thoughts.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it on the list, but the subject of cost savings, efficiencies resulting from the consolidation, I just don't know that it's there or prominent. We certainly haven't seen anything that would say, if you do this, this, and this, we might be able to save a ballpark of X amount of dollars.
Yep. So that is, so that is items, that's currently item 16. It says receive and evaluate staffing and operational cost data for consolidation scenarios. That's my catch-all for that, but if you feel like that is not like specific enough, like please let me know, because again, I wanna make sure that we're getting that, okay, all right, great. I'll just keep looking at you, Mary Beth, to make you feel awkward. Any other comments? Okay. All right. Item D on the agenda, routine business. We have to approve the minutes from May 27th. I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Carrie, seconded by John. For discussion, I will note, Alicia asked me to comment that she wanted to make sure that her request to look at Antolini with second grade and no major additions was included as part of the scope, which I do think that Michelle has captured, but just to update the minutes, to note that that was requested.
I saw you.
Okay.
What was requested?
I'm sorry?
What was requested to be added?
So looking at Antolini with second grade and no major additions. Any other discussion on the minutes?
So do we amend the,
It's in the minutes, it's the last motion of the minutes.
Yeah, I think she wanted to make sure that the language was clear
no,
about what
it's
that
not.
meant.
It doesn't say anything about, grade 2 through 6 at Interlady, unless I missed
Well,
it.
it says, develop and present configuration options housing pre-K through grade 1 at New Hartford Elementary without program expansion, pre-K through grade 1 for Bakerville. I mean, that means 2 through 6 at Interlady. Doesn't.
You
With
might
no
assume that,
expansion,
but
with
that's
no-
part of the motion,
Yeah, I
it's a
might-
significant part.
Okay.
Okay.
Seems to me we gotta make a motion to add that statement.
I would agree with that.
Do you want to clarify that, because it's 2 through 6 here with no additions, correct? No
Right,
new
with no
configuration,
program changes.
no program changes.
So I'll make that motion. You want me to reword it, or?
Yeah, that's the amendment that that's the amendment to the minutes that has been requested. Any,
So
yes,
we-
Elizabeth.
Are you gonna send that to me, cause this motion you sent to me, so I didn't,
Yes,
wasn't able to.
Yep.
I don't know what the change will be.
yep.
Okay.
And then the only other change that I would make on here is Mr. Lloyd, it says unknown name for you. So we use your first and last name in your 29 Pioneer Drive, I imagine. And then what was your first name again? John Lloyd. And we don't want you to be known as unknown man.
Just so you know, it wasn't said in the recording and the camera doesn't.
Yeah, it probably didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the minutes?
So can we give the motion before we vote on it?
The last time we had this meeting and we needed to amend the minutes, I was told that just commenting about the amendments in the meeting was enough to just pass the motion, but I'm happy to do whatever everybody wants to do, since that seems to be changing from time to time.
Well, I guess I would make the motion that we amend Alicia Kenister's motion on page 4, I believe it is, to also include housing grades 2 through 6 at Ann Antolini School without program changes.
Are you motioning to amend the minutes, or are you motioning to amend the
I'm
motion?
making motions to amend the minutes.
Any second for amending the minutes?
I'll second it.
Second by Penny. All those in favor of amending the minutes?
So we're
Sounds
just adding an amendment
Yeah.
to the minutes that are already in.
Yes.
That will be reflected in the minutes of this meeting.
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly
We're
right.
all clear on this.
Can we
Yep.
clarify exactly what that means?
I will follow up with you on what the change was. Sorry, was that your question?
As long as you're gonna send it to me, cause
Yeah, I will tell you. Item B under routine business is our timeline check-in. Near the
So,
end.
our timeline went up until this week, really. So with what I'm presenting tonight, it's kind of like a summary of where we are. We added some benefits and drawbacks to sort of hone in on, I'm not saying wrap this up because we'll meet again this summer and continue, but just to kind of summarize where we're at. Does that make sense?
Yes, and from here on, from a timeline perspective, we'll just be working through the minutes, but anything else, again, is really from here, it's about understanding what Michelle's work is, what other work we need from her, as well as any other additional data that we need to collect here. So. All right, with that, I will move on to item E, new business updates from Supervisor Kelly.
Oh, great.
You ready to go?
I'm just gonna share my screen on here. So, window.
Okay. All right, so tonight I just want to review our scope and findings, revisit our potential configurations, and we did add some benefits and drawbacks that Silver Petrocelli sees with these options, so just kind of putting that out there. I also did incorporate that reduced kind of option E. I might have misinterpreted it slightly, but we'll work through that and talk about that. Then also I just have some notes from our meeting with Planning and Zoning, and then also some important changes to the Office of Grant Administration that I think is going to be very beneficial for everyone here. So this is right from our RFP. These are the main tasks that we had within the study. Effort 1 is all about retaining your current facilities, how we're supposed to evaluate all the support spaces in the district, determine the educational appropriateness, analyze the physical attributes, and then outline strategies for maximizing efficiency while retaining these 3 schools. Effort 2 is all about reducing the number of facilities, so assessing the feasibility and impact of reducing the number of school facilities, analyzing that space, and then outlining the required modifications and benefits of consolidation, hence why I'm presenting some benefits and drawbacks tonight. So if you remember, we first started with our facility condition assessment, where we kind of itemized all of the items we saw at each of your schools, totaled it up to a total cost of just under $40 million. We also kind of showed you how they stand in the FCI, the Facility Condition Index benchmarking, with Antolini leading the way and Bakerville in the deficiency category. We then went through all the programming. This was a summary chart of everything here, also looking at your capacity and utilization throughout the schools. We then also looked at benchmarking your spaces against typical planning and state recommendation practices. We compared your school with districts of a similar size, looking at how they're organizing their schools to see how you compare. And then really we highlighted what the district deficiencies were: special ed, intervention, art and music, separate cafeteria, full gym, nurses suite, main office suites need improvement, staff's traveling all over, central office is broken up, and then of course HVAC and ventilation. We kind of concluded programming with our conceptual program standards for New Hartford, kind of honing in on the special ed and intervention spaces that are needed at each school. Now I'll go through all of the configurations that we've been looking at, and then I have a slide with some benefits and drawbacks that I think could be open to, taking other people's comments on them. But again, so just a reminder, very high level site planning, and I'm just sharing the site plans with you all for now. So option A, so this is a summary of all the options, and again, highlighting that they're high level planning scenarios. Option A, I took the options we kind of took out of option A. We had A1, address the facility conditions, A2, renovate as new all of your schools, and A5 was a mix, renovate as new Bakerville and address facility conditions at your other 2 schools. So we had the addition for Bakerville here, eliminating the portable, adding on the 4 classroom wing to the back. We like this concept for the fact that it can maintain the portables and keep kids in place while that is being built. So some of the benefits we see is that it does address your facility conditions. It would replace your modular structure with conventional construction, and it maintains, your history with small communities, your 3-school model. The drawbacks are that the 3-school model does create inefficiencies within the educational system. Staff is traveling, there's programs repeated for small populations, and their energy consumption. There's a need for a cafeteria gym separation still within this. The expansion doesn't improve the educational and lunchtime operations. It also doesn't improve any program, your specials, your special ed, your intervention, your media, office, all of that kind of remains essentially the same. The addition to Bakerville does displace the septic system, and it for the most part, it could require occupied construction. As I mentioned, you build that addition, you can start to swing people around, and it just extends the time period of renovating the building is what it would do, which therefore does increase costs.
Michelle,
Yes?
the audience at home says everybody's muted.
Yes.
Is it me muting?
I think so.
Okay, let's look at that. Pause for a second. Go ahead, I'm a little technically challenged.
It's okay. It's okay. I think when we were trying to get going, just for the task force, we do have 2 backup, and for notes, we have 2 backup means catching the meeting. So I know that it's not ideal for those at home. We've only had 1 person on, then off, then maybe on again. So. Stop presenting. Let me see here. So where?
Oh my gosh. Oh, there it is.
How are we muted here?
I went here and just did my volume there. I went in settings and was looking at volume, but didn't do anything. I could leave and come back in if that helps. I don't know.
Do you want us to try going?
I'm sorry?
Should we hop out and go back in? It'll break up the recording though.
Yeah,
We can, otherwise, I mean, there's only.
yeah. It's the same
It
link.
seems like she has to approve the microphone being used,
Yeah, that's why I didn't think.
so use microphone.
Oh.
Do you want people to hear you in the meeting?
Usually it's not mine that's doing it though. It's it's something over there.
Right now I'm showing that.
But I'm happy to. What are we gonna do? It still says all muted. I don't know.
There's something that got. Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to unmute.
He says she can hear you now.
She can? Okay.
Okay, try that.
Okay. Okay.
Is it Heather? Yeah.
Where'd my screen go?
Sorry.
It was minimized.
There you go.
Share. Am I okay to continue where I'm at, or do I need to back up? Am I okay?
You're,
Okay.
keep going.
Okay. So, moving on. Am I clicking the wrong thing? Okay, option B. Combining your pre-K2 population into one school at an existing site. We're looking at New Hartford and Bakerville in this scenario. So B1, we were adding on a 2-story addition to the back of Bakerville with multiple other side additions.
Perfect.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, no. I definitely didn't mean to do that. We're going to modify the interior to address program, modify the site as needed. But again, multiple additions do create well, I'll say that here. All right, so the benefits, again, we're utilizing an existing building. You'll have 2 buildings on each side of town, which is nice. Program expansion of special ed, specials, intervention, media, office configuration, etc. So the drawbacks are we are located in a floodplain, so it will require engineering to add on to this building. The gym and the CAF are not separated, so it really doesn't work with scheduling. We can look at revising this option to relocate, to add a separate CAF on. So we do need to add on to this or revise it. The revised office configuration is squeezed in. There's thoughts of relocating that to the addition to kind of bring that to the parking lot also. Kindergarten still doesn't have individual restrooms within their room. Pre-K and K are still undersized. The site layout does have constraints. Space is limited for parking, playgrounds, drop-off. We do have first grade upstairs, which I've talked about before. Multiple additions do add an expense. And then again, we have occupied construction here. We're gonna have to figure out a solution. Again, building your additions help when you start working on the existing part of the building. So now we'll look at Bakerville. Conceptual test fit here. We're going to modify the interior to address program. We're going to build another 2-story addition. It does require us to relocate your septic leaching fields. We'll modify the site and the playscape area, and we will remove that modular building. So the benefits, again, we get to utilize an existing building, keep the history in town. The program does get expanded. We do have increased specials, special ed, intervention, media, office configuration, etc. The building is large compared to the site. We are over the building coverage, which is okay with a variance.
I want to be very clear that when you say it's okay with a variance, that was guidance from Mike Lucas. That like
Correct, and I do have a slide upcoming about that.
Get a variance in order to expand the footprint.
It was a concern of mine. I brought it up. I asked, and he said that's not.
Like P&Z would still have to approve it.
Yes, through a variance process.
I hope we could make a case if we needed to do that.
The gym and CAF is also not separated here, so it really doesn't work with scheduling. So we really should be adding a separate cafeteria gym on. Revised office configuration is also tight, kind of like New Hartford was. The site size does have even increased, more limited space, playgrounds, drop-off, smaller site. First grade is still upstairs here, and then the same scenario with occupied construction. Looking at option C, new school. As you can see, I dashed a road in because it's not going to be, I get it, it's not going to be a straight run. I'm trying to be diagrammatic so you guys can get that. There's potential, that's all I'm saying. So we're showing you a new school adjacent to the building, adjacent to the upper field. This creates a district campus. We do need civil engineering to evaluate site grading, geotechnical, traffic, parking, storm, septic, well, all of it. There's opportunities to design separate traffic for bus and parent drop-off, and again, that potential for a second road access. So the benefits is that with new construction, we're not going to impact the school during construction. Both of your schools will operate where they are while that is being built. You will get more of a modern design layout where we have separation between public and private and your separate wings. It does meet all of the program. We do have to build these schools to what's called Connecticut High Performance, which is energy efficiency above the code requirements. We will create a district campus here. It'll share fields with Antolini. I say that as a benefit because it's less to maintain, one field, one large field to maintain. We have the separate bus, parent, and pre-K drop-off. It's your most secure location, more than your other 2 schools. Potential to incorporate central office for greater district efficiencies. The drawbacks are that there's a larger cost with new construction and you get less reimbursement. We have some site work, some road utilities that need to be done. There's the ledge we're likely going to be hitting. We're taking away that site from your town hiking area, and all of your schools are on one side of town in this scenario. Option D. Option D is looking at Antolini as your pre-K through 6 school, putting a wing onto the back of the building, and also we're showing a gym at the front. This is revised since I probably last shared it with the group. So the benefits here are the rear addition does have little impact on the school during construction. It would house pre-K and 2 in a separate wing. It does meet the program requests. Everything new that we have to build, and even the existing, really with any of these, we have to work on the energy efficiency of the existing buildings to improve that. Creates a district campus. You get a separate pre-K drop-off here. It's a more secure location than both of your existing schools, and again, the potential to incorporate central office for greater efficiencies. Drawbacks are the site work, road utilities, the potential ledge, again, the site taken away from the field area, and one school on one side of town. So option E. So after we all talked last week, I took it as, again, we're looking at modified, limited additions, so limit expansion of special ed services, limit the expansion of the specials, and include only the minor front and side additions at New Hartford. We didn't really get into Antolini specifically, so I do have an addition at Antolini, and we can talk through it, obviously. So this is the scenario of not adding an addition on. If you can see, I have 2 classrooms floating. I cannot get all of the classrooms within this concept, and we can have an executive session to go through the floor plan after, if you'd like. And I can show you that in more detail of what's happening.
Can you go back?
Sure.
So you couldn't fit the
I
classroom
cannot
needs.
fit 2 classrooms in. Those are the 2
Like the
classrooms.
floating parking lot.
Yeah.
Got it.
Is it, okay, yeah.
Conceptual, John.
Yeah, no, I was saying, yeah, but just, it's, yeah.
I should have noted
no,
it.
No, it's just noting that's what you mean by 2 classrooms that are floating, just not fitting, yeah.
They do not fit in.
Yeah.
Again, the task was not to put on the rear addition.
Yeah.
And I'll show you what I did with the interior so you can understand.
The executive session in the agenda is for, so we can take a closer look at them instead.
Yeah.
Could have put them in the river.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have been a little modular out there too, but you know.
Well, this is all floodplain, right? So
It is a floating.
Yeah, so they're
My
floating.
apologies. My
Yeah.
foot is floating.
Okay, so the benefits are we're utilizing an existing building, 2 buildings on each side of town, and we have a limited program expansion here. But so the drawbacks are your specials remain in 1 class for 3 uses. We cannot fit all classrooms in as requested. 2 don't fit. All special ed and intervention services are not met. The gym and the CAF are not separated. The revised office configuration is squeezed in, as previously mentioned. Kindergarten doesn't have individual restrooms. Pre-K and K are undersized. Again, we have site constraints here, multiple additions at expense, and again, the occupied construction. Bakerville, I took a look to try to equalize it to the New Hartford. I obviously have to add on here to meet, New Hartford size. I did reduce the gym size I had previously shown to equal exactly New Hartford's. But there, obviously, I did fit all of it in there. So the benefits are we're utilizing the existing building, some limited program expansion, pre-K and K are right-sized classrooms in this scenario, and it does add more of a functional gym to the Bakerville community. Specials remain in 1 class for 3 uses, more additions than New Hartford to equalize it. I'm just kind of noting that, so it will cost more than the New Hartford scenario. Gym and cafeteria are not separated. The revised office configuration is tight. The building is large compared to its site. The site layout is constrained. Again, parking, playgrounds, drop-off. Multiple additions at expense. I think that should not have been there. Sorry, that one. Occupied construction again. Okay, so looking at Antolini as grades 2 through 6, what I had mentioned to you all last time was that it won't function if we don't have a separate gym cafeteria scenario. They cannot meet the scheduling for gym and lunch. So what I showed here in place of the auditorium is a gym addition, no other addition. We have 15 classrooms, all for your 2 through 6 population, and we were able to make some improvements to the program. So the benefits here, we can utilize those Oak Hill classrooms, get them used by your 2nd graders, and we do increase the school utilization rate. Bringing 2nd grade in, it would bring it to an 85%. The drawbacks are it's not an optimal development group. That's the 2 through 6, bringing 2 into this scenario. It combines your early elementary students with pre-adolescents. It cannot support the lunch waves in gym class, so we do need that separate gym cafeteria expansion that I showed you. With no added intervention, we have no added intervention special ed spaces to support second grade. It's limited, or it will reduce the services for your other grades. So second graders are still in primary grades, instructions heavily focused on reading, numeracy, greater teacher direction, more intensive behavioral support, which is an added need for more intervention and support spaces, which we don't have here. It limits expansion of the life skills program that we were looking to add here. And then I think you're going to have to do more with your playgrounds to support the age group. Okay, so that's kind of the overall of the options. These are just brief notes from our planning and zoning. So New Hartford Elementary, a portion of the existing building is within the floodplain. He acknowledged that. He acknowledged that additions aren't ideal, but it is possible. We kind of, as I was saying, it's going to be different types of foundation systems that we'd have to incorporate. It's probably a lot more insurance, I'm guessing, too. But so, yeah, added expenses for the engineering of adding on to New Hartford. Bakerville will be, I think it's anything over 2,300 square feet, 23,000 square feet will take it over the allowable coverage that we need. And also the parking does not need to be within the setback. I know that was brought up at one point. It's okay to be out of the setback with parking. In Antolini School, there's lots of room to expand, but the ledge information is unknown, but blasting could obviously also add an expense. So these were kind of the things we briefly talked about.
Yeah.
Lastly, I decided to go back on the website for the school construction grants. Because they updated, they changed forms on us. It's just I get in the practice of looking at it, and I hadn't looked at it probably since February. And in March, they updated something that is incredibly helpful for us. These are some snippets right from their website. But basically, they revised the approach for consideration of early childhood and special education programming space within the space standard calculation. So before, if you exceeded the space standards, we had to kind of hit the reimbursement. And sometimes people would go for special legislation where they would try to fight for either larger reimbursement rates or additional square footage. And now they're saying that we can build that into our ed specs, and the commissioner is able to exclude any of this space from your space standards. So basically it's acknowledging kind of the space conundrum I've been telling you about. It's early childhood, so your pre-K and your special ed. It has to be written well into the ed specs that you have to do for any of these applications anyway. So I think you guys have a good chance of improving that. It's kind of unknown until you really start your application, or at least start some dialogue with them. But I think it's incredibly helpful because it's really the two main categories we've been talking about.
So if we don't include the space for the pre-K or early childhood, which would just be the pre-K, don't include the head count either?
I don't know specifically.
Okay.
I think there's a lot. This came out in March, and I hadn't heard about it until I read it for myself. This on the side here, that's a snippet of the actual statute. So you have to request it within your application, and the commissioner can exclude that square footage. It's not about excluding the people, it's excluding the square footage.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have to pay for the square footage to be built, but it wouldn't affect your reimbursement rate, is how I'm interpreting it. So I think it's just helpful with this kind of conundrum we're in. And that's essentially it.
So our grant ratio would potentially increase.
So every time I'm showing you those scenarios with the reimbursement rate changing, it might not change as much for the 6,000 square feet of special ed and the 2,000 to 3,000 of pre-K. They change things a lot, so it could change again before you even apply. But I saw that and I got excited a little bit there.
The way that you described it to me was basically, again, just like an acknowledgement of what they have put forth for the space standards is like not functional.
That's how I feel when I read it.
And trying to figure out how to make it work better.
Yeah.
Just good.
Yeah. So then just kind of bringing it back to our next steps again, as, you know, we'll hone in again on these options, come up with the costs again, but we'll incorporate that phasing and occupancy along with schedule and all the other costs, the operational, staffing, busing, so we can look at that as a whole. And then again, just recommending to narrow it down to 1 to 2 options after that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any, comments,
Yeah,
questions from the
well,
task
just a
force?
question, and it's literally just a question, but like, if we were to go back to the grant reimbursement, taking out some of that space, is that a fairly, put in quotes, easy calculation?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I can, that's easy enough.
Okay, so it'd be interesting to see
Math,
what
yeah.
that
Yeah.
would be, given these new.
Yeah.
Especially with Antolini, because that was really limiting a lot of our reimbursement, was this space here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That'd be 9,000, you know, 9,000,
Yeah.
maybe 10,000 square feet, which would be, it's a big change.
Significant, yeah.
Yeah,
The presentation that Michelle went through tonight will be added to the website. We had a quick turnaround at the last meeting, so I'm not able to share it out in advance, but it'll be available for people to look at here. I guess I want to just ask the task force while we're sitting here, again, just in terms of like the work that we're planning on doing between now and the next meeting, I want to revisit again the options that Michelle is spending time looking at. Are there, I feel given it is my opinion that we could take a look again at the options that we're still having her investigate and make sure that these are all the options we want her to continue investigating as she's going through the exercises of phasing, time planning or so on and so forth. Are there any configurations that we want to kind of like take off of the evaluation list as she's working over the next several weeks? And we don't have to. I'm just posing the question to everybody here.
Personally, I'd love to not see.
I'm sorry?
I said, personally, I'd love to not see second grade up here. And even have that be a consideration, but I understand that that was something that was requested, but I see too many conflicts on multiple avenues. And I have heard from different families too, on how they would feel comfortable with their second graders up here if they didn't have the primary grades all together as well.
Based on the information I've been able to get in relation to that, I would see that as a last option.
You what?
I would see moving grade 2 up here as a last option.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be. I mean, I understand we need to work within financial constraints, absolutely. But I think our goal is to keep things at least as good, if not better, for the students. And there are elements of that configuration that could make things difficult for the teachers and students in that break, second grade.
I think it deserves to be one of the narrowed down options that we look at to satisfy the 50% of the people in town, maybe, who knows, that think it might sound viable, and to be able to get an understanding of, okay, so there's a disadvantage of having second graders at Antolini. What are we really saving by doing that? Are we saving a little bit, or are we saving a lot of money by doing that? And should that come down to a financial decision? I don't know, at some point it does. I know that when my kids were going to kindergarten, you know, that's where they went, right in the school.
With everybody though.
yeah, the difference being the K through 6 versus just the
It
2
wasn't
through
K
6.
though. there was still Bakerville.
So what were the grades, do you remember? That were combined?
I think it was kindergarten, and other than that, it was 3 through 6. They were in kindergarten. I think they were in there with 3 through 6. Separate part of the school.
Yeah.
But I just think that maybe it'll get swatted away because it doesn't save enough money to override the concern. If money is really an object, you know what I mean? Sometimes it doesn't matter what it costs, it's still a
completely
bad
understand the
idea.
financial aspect of it, of course. But ultimately, isn't what we're looking at also like the education for the kids in our district? And making sure that we're putting forth something that is the best for them while being mindful of the financial responsibility for backing it. So I do understand both sides of it, but I'm just definitely gonna,
And I think there's a lot of opinions out there on that.
Yeah, but
And the only way we're gonna
yeah, compromise.
to
Yeah,
get it on the
definitely
table.
needed, yeah.
Maybe there'll be a lot of fighting and kicking and what
Yeah.
have you, but at least you vetted it.
No,
As opposed to say, no, we can't do that, it's not good for the kids.
Yeah, I think you're right. It deserves attention for that reason. It should be vetted. I think you're right. Because it has been consistently mentioned as a possibility throughout a lot of iterations of this.
And adding 2 more classrooms to New Hartford Elementary, that doesn't seem that insurmountable. I mean, it's still in a flood zone, but that's a much smaller addition than we've been talking about.
My takeaway from the New Hartford is there's not enough room. We have 2 floating
2 classrooms.
classrooms, so it would be an investment in something that actually doesn't fit.
Well, I don't know if it fits or not. It gets it done, but it doesn't expand the special needs areas. And I think we gotta look at that classroom by classroom. You know, to me, there's extra space in there now. And I may be a minority on that, and I may be wrong on it, I don't know, but I just think we gotta
that's
try to
fine.
poke at it.
Sure.
To enter section 2 back in.
Oh,
I mean, it's possible to have extra space in there now, but combining the schools doesn't mean we can absorb everything. There's still
Not
making
necessarily
it
right.
short.
Yeah. And just to throw that out too, and also some of the we can't fit 2 rooms in New Hartford, yet we're doing all this construction, and we're really tied up here moving 2 to 6. I'd be curious to see once we see the designs. I do think we need to keep in mind that 10 years from now, if we were sitting here 10 years ago and we made the decision then that was made, we wouldn't have enough space for everybody. We wouldn't have enough space for the special needs. We'd probably have to be outplacing, which is obviously a huge cost. I'm just obviously thinking out loud. I just want to make sure we're looking. One of the things that we put together on the priority is the flexibility in space. So we have to be also cautious if we're spending so much money and squeezing everybody into 2 spaces, which might make sense right now. It doesn't make sense 10 years from now. We don't know.
And I'd rather not have to do this again.
I will not be doing this again. I mean, I think the life skills component, I do like, again, from my conversations with the administrative team, like having that component here will allow us to keep and even I think for like the foreseeable future, again, no one knows what's going to happen, but in terms of like the types of challenges that people are experiencing, life skills here like allows us to keep, the majority of students that get outplaced here. There are still some specialized services that we are like never going to be able to never going to be able to fulfill in town. I just think it's like unrealistic. But like some kids who have like really medically fragile needs, like some other kind of like educational components that just we're too small to do that. But the life skills piece here can really kind of get that like first level of intervention that is so expensive. And like we all know, again, everybody's watching their bills every month. We all know how costs are just going up and up and up and up and up. And like it's a way of us kind of helping keep control the quality of those programming by having some of that space in here, and kind of like that to me is like a really strong moat against the future, right? Like it just gives us the space to kind of figure out how to like deliver those services here for our kids in town, which is where our tax dollars should be going for people who live in town. So I would hate to see us not addressing some of that if we have the opportunity to right now, just given watching the budgets over the last, 10-ish years and how much more special education costs are like eating up so much more of the budget. Like that's probably not going to change.
And that line item's gonna change given the population and what the needs are. Did we ever get kind of an estimate of our current outplacement and what we would save with the picture that exists now without disclosing?
We can look at some of that. Again, it changes from year to year. I think we have some, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was told there's 4 existing students at $200,000 a student, and that they would have another 4 spots for taking other students in. And obviously as your population changes.
Yeah.
So it's 4 to 8, basically.
Okay.
I think before we consider that, we should see something in writing that we can go back to and say, wait a minute, here's what we said it was gonna do. Here's what it's gonna cost for added teachers.
Yeah, because it's not just a net gain, yeah.
What, a breakdown.
So one of the things I think about when I'm looking at us investing in any kind of renovations to Bakerville and New Hartford Elementary is which building is worth putting money into. Because this building is significantly newer than the other two, but I look at those other 2 buildings and, if we're looking at doing any kind of renovations, which one's worth putting the money into? They both have drawbacks, but I mean, the numbers that you gave us for, I forgot the name of the term, but
The facility conditions.
the Bakerville had the lowest number, or the worst number, I guess I should say. But does that mean does that mean it's not worth fixing, or like I just think about what's the value of it, is it worth investing in?
You're asking me.
I am. I think it's a question we can ask as a task force, right?
I think it's a tough one. It's putting it in the deficient category. It requires a lot. It's approaching, getting close to the cost of building new, right? Essentially, it's a wood frame structure. It's inferior. The structure is inferior to New Hartford's, I would say. It's a great little school. Not saying that it's not. And the site itself is a struggle. It's very small.
But I mean, if we're looking at investing in renovations to a site that we want to be an investment for how many years going forward, we should be looking at what's the base we're working with, right?
Yeah, and the flexibility of that space, which are kind of limited on both, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, we are, yes.
I'd say not just years, decades.
Yes.
yeah.
And to the other side of it, hearing how New Hartford is the energy hog, like I kind of was surprised by that. I thought it was going to be the other way around.
It's that basement.
It's the I think it's the steam really.
Yeah.
There's also those walls. They don't have cavities, so there's no insulation in them whatsoever. There's no weep holes even in the addition. New Hartford. I'm sorry, I jumped. Yeah.
Just like New Hartford is the energy hog.
And we got the energy, that was surprising when we got the energy report last week.
I just
or last
assumed it
week.
was going to be Bakerville. I did.
I'm gonna ask you this question, although I feel like I've probably asked it before, which is like for some of the like HVAC work that like really needs to like really should be considered to be done at like any of the
Yeah.
school facilities. Like, how much of that work can be done while the students are in session, right? Like, again, realistically looking at like what it would take to maintain all of the facilities, like New Hartford is an energy hog. Like, the work to be done there to like improve the energy efficiency, like what does that construction look like?
So I don't know the specifics of the systems proposed, but if there's a way that they can phase it and do some classrooms at a time, but you'll never be able to do a full mechanical project in one summer. So there will be either a phasing plan, breaking it up into summers, which happens at some schools, would have to be figured out, or you're going to have to move kids around to free up certain rooms. They can propose certain systems that, maybe, take 3 to 4 classrooms at a time so that you can break it up that way. But I'd have to have the engineers talk to that a little more because I'm not exactly sure what the exact systems they're proposing and how that would work. But most of the scenarios require taking the ceilings down and redoing ceilings. So it's the whole room,
Yeah.
And in the older buildings, there's stuff behind those ceilings that
Yeah, it's a ripple
can't
effect.
have children around.
Is that, will we get like a view of that as you're doing some of the phasing outlines? Sorry to, it's okay if you say no. I'm just trying to.
What I was gonna look at it from I'm gonna break the building up into pieces and think about how many phases it would be, then think about the timeline of that.
Yeah.
And thinking about the escalation of that timeline. That's more, and the ramifications, or do you need portables for a period of time while you're doing this? Because that happens a lot, and that adds millions to jobs.
Yeah.
We always try to avoid it. Some schools go through the pain of taking their gym and sectioning it off into classrooms for a period of time, and you lose the gym. But you at least don't have to put portables up. So there's so many variables that could go on. As I do that, I'll want to tap your administration team again. Like, what would you put up with, during this? How would you want to handle it? So that I can kind of put a realistic thought to it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't necessarily gonna, hey, engineers. I might have that conversation with them a little bit, but it wasn't necessarily about the engineering specifically.
Right.
Although that does play into phasing a lot.
Well, it's part of the fading, right? But it's also just, again, taking a closer look at like what, if we were to like maintain the status quo, like what does that look like in terms of what we know needs to be addressed at the schools, or like things that we've talked about addressing, right? Like we've talked about addressing some of the power sources, like changing from oil to propane or anything like that. So like that's sort of like where I'm going. Like we have like baseline like construction costs for that, but like what does that look like if we need to do that? And like there are outsized costs for that. And again, I don't want to go like all over the board here. I'm not trying to add new complexity to things, but some of that work does not seem easy to me in terms of the existing buildings.
No, it's not, definitely not easy.
Yeah.
Existing buildings are never easy. You're gonna find things, always.
Is Bakerville the only one that has asbestos in it?
No, I think there is some asbestos throughout the others. It was common. It's even in products today, but it was common into the 80s. I know we went through the report, and I flagged things within the report that I knew about. Just that Bakerville has a lot of it.
And that a lot adds to the cost of renovating it.
Oh yeah, and even demolishing it, it's gonna add the cost to all of it.
You have an allowance in there for that already.
We do. Yeah, it's a pretty hefty allowance. I think that's why the building actually has good energy, because there's. It's my theory. So yeah, but we did flag some in New Hartford. We put an allowance into each one. It's just that Bakerville had the largest one. Whenever you open walls up, you're going to find, at least on pipes, you're going to find it in some places.
Yeah. Any other thoughts tonight? No. Okay. Thanks for the discussion today.
Yeah.
Thanks for this.
No problem.
Look forward for additional information on, well, it's not up anymore, the phasing, and so on and so forth at the next meeting in July. Yes, sir.
So in terms of looking at some of the grant, the impacts of that change at the state level and potential grant funding, so just in terms of, is there an opportunity for you to do a little more, like, run a few options to see what the numbers could look like?
So taking kind of what I've showed you and apply that savings to it, essentially, you mean?
I mean, yes, but I'm not sure if it would be, realizing there's probably a lot of manual work. Like, I'm not saying across all the options, but it seems like there's a handful of options that are sort of up in the air right now, that if we could talk about a few options for updating the numbers based on that proposed, or I guess actual change.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I could do that, but what, you guys tell me what options, or otherwise I'll just do them all, because
Yeah.
I guess that would be, I don't want to make the assumption for you all.
And when we're looking at the reimbursement rates, we're looking at it for, like, the priority list of projects for grants versus non-priority list when it comes to what the state
So,
considers?
The facility ones, the facility conditions, if we did that, that would be non-priority.
Right, like the HVAC and all.
Yes, those can be done as non-priority, but the major renovations, additions, alterations are priority.
Well, no, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
think again, I will revisit the question. Are there any options that Michelle is currently investigating that we don't feel like it's worth to keep investigating before she does the cost analysis piece here?
I think that's our next step, is not figure out which ones we're gonna move forward, which ones we're definitely not gonna.
Right.
Yeah, it's only
Right.
another, yeah.
Right,
So
that's-
either they start rolling in, or,
Not looking great.
That's what
yeah.
I'm asking. So,
Those chairs.
There's definitely, I'm not promoting options, we were just talking about like the facility conditions report and the notion of maintaining all three. And so if there were to maintain existing all three facilities and what the grant dollars would look like there, then that's one potential path. And you had mentioned keeping in the path of having the two schools, New Harbor Elementary and Antolini, in some way, somehow, which might be a pre-K through 1 and 2 through 6, with some combination of the New Harbor Elementary and Antolini. And it seems like there's the two versions of having one campus up here that seem to be coming up. Obviously, there's site questions there, but those seem to be coming up a fair amount.
my understanding regarding the site questions up here is that realistically, we would want to have firmer plans and do some boring to fully understand what is possible up here. And that probably we'd want to do 4 borings. I am talking way out over my skis, so anybody that feels like this is weird, I'm just trying to understand my translation of it. 4 separate areas at least would probably need to be bored in order for us to really understand what's going on under any particular piece. And my understanding also is that each boring is maybe $8,000 to $10,000, somewhere in that range. So, and again, don't quote me on that. I'm just trying to go off my memory here in terms of what would next steps for us to be to really fully understand the site up here. And it would basically it would require some money for us to really dig into that. And I don't think it's substantive money, and substantive is all relative, but it is not going to be easy for us to get any better answers regarding the site conditions up here with the resources that we currently have available to us with no additional budget. And any of that work that we would want to do would be better served by us kind of saying here's a roadmap, and not here's 3 different roadmaps for us to look at up here, because again, that's just going to add to the complexity there. So again, not something that we need to decide on right now. That's just been my understanding from casual conversations, but I did want to set that expectation regarding what that would look like.
Yeah, typically we don't do borings until we start schematic design at some point, and it basically tells you what type of foundation system we would need. So it'll tell you, it gives you a profile of the earth, and a geotech civil consultant would tell our structural engineer what type of foundation footings they would need.
So what else do you need to evaluate this site for further expansion?
Well, in this particular phase, I don't think there's that much more we can do. If you move forward with it, you do need to have. I'm losing my thought you do need to get a type of survey done. I can't think of what it is now. You have to do an environmental assessment per the state. Yep, phase 1. And then when you do have you know your footprint at least, then you can go for your borings. We have done that. I'm trying to think. We worked on Oxford Middle School pre-referendum type of phase. So we were, loosely designed, and we did borings then. So before they really got started, so that they knew what they were up against, because they had ledge there too.
John, were you looking at those new grants before that Michelle had mentioned?
I had looked at that in detail. I was just doing a little bit of looking, but Michelle knows far more than I do, so I was curious to see how that might apply to the options that we're considering.
Does one give us more money? Yeah.
Again, I'm not the expert here, but it does seem that that program that was announced is the March 18th option, where the early education space and the special education space not being, or I guess they're being
Excluded space,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's included in the project.
From the
but
space
it's
standard
excluded
calculation.
From the calculations, yeah. That could potentially give us significantly more state funding for what we're discussing.
So maybe it wouldn't cost us as much?
Yeah, exactly.
You would get more on reimbursement than I've been
So
telling you.
potentially, that's what we were saying, potentially, like, if it were a 50,000 square foot facility, just rough numbers, and then ballpark 10,000 of that was space for early education and special education, again, if that could be excluded, that would significantly impact the amount of space that would be eligible for reimbursement.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see the difference of the maintaining, because we have so little space dedicated to some of this, versus the expansion if the percentage of reimbursement almost offsets the addition of
That's what I was just
programs. It could be really interesting to see. So I think on that end, I would like to keep everything on there, because I think it's relevant to each of the scenarios to figure out the total cost.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for
As
that,
is-
yeah.
As
That's
is renovation,
yeah.
keeping all three. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we narrowed it down to what I think are reasonable things to have on the table to be discussing. And if we're not, if the 2 through 6 comes here, but we're not adding any programming, and the student ratio to space is high, but if we get to take that program space out, or special ed space out, I'm not making sense of it.
Yeah.
Following me.
Okay.
That could change a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, as we're talking, I'm thinking some special ed and pre-K gets additional reimbursement. So I think I'm gonna have to ask the state, because I'm like, wait a minute, can we get that extra reimbursement and not count the square footage? Like, sounds like too good of a deal, like almost. So I think I'll be reaching out and asking some questions.
But is that using current space that we have, or is it?
It's usually when you're adding, like the life skills room, you would get an added 15% for that.
But is that like building new rooms or just?
Yes, new program. It doesn't have to necessarily be addition, it could be within, but it's new programming. Whereas like your pre-K already exists, we're not expanding it, so I don't think we can apply it when it's existing, but when we look at it moving somewhere, I think I can. Again, it's not crystal clear, so I have some questions to ask them.
Or if we used it on the 3 rooms across the hall,
It would,
That give us more money,
Um,
cost us less money?
we've converted those to life skills rooms.
yes.
And renovated them to make that space there, then it sounds like we would get a higher reimbursement rate than we
Yes,
thought when we
there's an
started the
additional
project.
15% for that space. And those little kind of pieces I did not factor in when we looked at the overall, but I will get into that minute kind of detail now.
There could be just, this goes to layout piece, if we're talking about bringing, like, we're short on some of the special education programming space at New Hope Elementary, and if we were bringing students there, and actually the quote new space was for special education needs and the early, like, new preschool space, that could actually, like, most of that kind of expansion could be in that category, depending on how we,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Could add up.
Yeah, yeah.
Break out that calculator.
Yeah, it's the Excel. Ooh, I get lost in Excel sheets. That's what happens.
All right. Anything else for Michelle?
You say that this changes frequently, so is there a chance that by the time we make a decision, it has changed?
There is, unfortunately, yes, there is a chance for that. Forms change, rules change. This is definitely a good one, and I've kind of, it's like, finally, yes. That's how I feel.
This change was reacting to a pain point, it sounds like, that
Yes.
people have been
I mean, I
experiencing
think this
going
is-
through
this
this,
is
so I have a
not
hard
just
time
your
believing
problem.
this one
Yeah.
would get rolled back anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I don't see it going away anytime soon. Again, it's just March 18th it went on, so. I mean, there's a chance they say no for some reason, but
Right. Thank you, Michelle.
no problem.
All right, I'm gonna move on to item F on our agenda, which is public comment. Anybody from the audience have anything to share with us tonight? Yes, sir. Your name and address, please, so we don't.
John Lloyd, 29 Pioneer Drive. I have two comments. One is, thank you, Mary Beth, for bringing up the exact phrase I was looking for. One of the, and I'm going to use this word deliberately, one of the deficiencies in what I've heard so far is you're not addressing what the worth of each site is. You know, regardless of academic issues or anything else, we have 3 sites that have a value. New Hartford Elementary is the oldest. We're talking about investing as a town and as a state very large sums of money on each site. The last thing that you want to do is put a large sum of money on a site and 10 years later find out for some reason that you didn't consider or something, you now have to redo something or replace something. So the comment about the quality of, say, Bakerville School construction being wood frame, the comment about New Hartford Elementary being masonry construction from the early 1900s without air gaps, comment about Antolini being newer. Those are very important comments, and I think they need to be right at the front of the report. Because anybody who's looking at this has to make a decision when we eventually get to a decision as to what as a town we want to do, how many schools, where they're going to be. Everybody has to understand it's going to be a large sum of money you're asking everybody to vote for. Many of us want to vote for it, but it's very hard to vote for something unless you're sure that if I don't do this, it's going to be a problem, or if I pick this site, what will happen if X, Y, and Z? Related to that, it's very important on all 3 sites that we make statements about what the public utilities are. It costs a lot of money to replace a septic system when it fails. Every single thing that I've seen on Bakerville and New Hartford requires touching the septic system. It adds occupancy. Same thing on the water. It costs money to drill wells. Wells go dry. Septic fields fail. That needs to be addressed. That is not to say that they will fail, but it needs to be there. Particularly when you start talking about, I'm going to put an addition here and we're going to have to move the septic field. Well, where? That requires a perk test. That requires a calculation of how much square footage you need. Is it going to be a built-up field or will it be a gravity field? That's not to say that it's this committee's purview to make that kind of decision, but you have to recognize and state those items, because we as the public need to know that. That's really important. The statement about what is the quality of each site and the value of investing in upgrading that site needs to be addressed. And obviously, it needs to be addressed with each of the various options there, because some options will impact the site less than others. But none of that is being addressed in anything I've heard here. And it needs to be picked up. It needs to be not scattered around its comments in various sections of the report. There needs to be a section that says, this is the benefits of this site, this is the negatives of this site. If we work on this site, pick New Hartford Elementary, yes, it's in a floodplain, but it's got the water supply and sanitary. We're hooked up. Things like that. It needs to be very clear. Second item is, two things are missing in terms of addressing. Now, how you address them financially, I think, is up to Michelle and your discussions, but they need to be very clearly called out. One is the environmental issues. There are five major items that are a problem in any building: asbestos, lead, PCB, mold. They're in all three of these buildings. The older the building, the more it is. Wood buildings in particular are nothing but fuel for mold. You're not going to be able to put a value on it. That's why Michelle is recommending that you carry an allowance. And that's the right thing to do. But you need to state it, because people need to remember it. When the walls are opened up in any building, including this one, there will be a surprise. Every piece of the structure that's been painted has lead paint on it. It has to be assumed. Every window that you take out has PCB caulking on it. It has to be assumed. So those kinds of things, you're not going to value them now, but they need to be part of this report, so that when we as the public look at this and say, well, why are you carrying, in your overall estimate, say $5 million, remediation number, they need to understand why. It's because the building was built in 1900, and these are the things that were in practical use at the time. The last part of that is phasing. I'm not enthralled with some of the comments that are made about phasing. I don't see how you can renovate a classroom or even a wing with normal construction techniques in the 2020s next to a classroom full of students, particularly elementary. Every school that I've ever seen or worked on has had to put temporaries in for that very reason. The best one that I can remember right now is Forbes down in Florida. So that impacts your cost, your site plan, your sanitary and water connections, all of that, and it needs to be addressed. Every one of the items here, whichever options you pick, you need to be very clear on how it's going to be phased and what the impacts are. And again, these are generalities, and nobody can expect that you guys to come up with an exact number. But everybody needs to understand, we as the public need to understand, that if we pick this, we're going to have to move, 300 students down and around the corner because it looked cheaper, but it really isn't. Or if we pick this, we don't have to move anybody, and the cost is reflective of that. So those are my two major comments. I'd really like to see those addressed much better than they have been now. I think it's very important, and it has everything to do with whatever the future goals are, whatever the actual sites are picked, and whatever the actual configurations are. And they need to be done now, not at the last minute, because it's going to affect your costs. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that I agree with everything you said, and I know that some of the items that you brought up are things that are flagged as like open items and things that we want to better understand. And the phasing work is the work that Michelle is undergoing now to really take a look at that across all of the sites. So I do agree. I think it's a little, like, while we're still in the process of narrowing things down, I'm not sure that I want to go through like the work of like summarizing each of these or like pulling all this information out for all 10 options that are here right now. But if we feel like the task force needs to do that to narrow things down, we can do that. But I definitely agree that we should have clear documentation on all of that when we get down to the final couple of options to make sure that that's clear to everybody, some of those trade-offs and things that we're looking at.
Well, some of the things that John mentioned we can pull some of that information from the facilities report already.
Yeah, we have some of that data. His point is that it's not it's not concise, it's clear, and it's not alongside some of this other stuff. So I think like the work has been done to identify some of those things, and it will just be about re-summarizing it when we're ready to kind of get to that point. Is my opinion on the way that we should incorporate that.
Just
Yes,
a
sir.
comment. You have all the information now. All you have to do is organize it. You have an architect sitting next to you, can do square foot costs forever, and they'll be reasonable for the state one. All you need to decide is, if I'm gonna phase this building, am I gonna move everybody out? And tell Michelle. Done. Same thing on remediation. It's not reasonable to expect any greater detail, in my opinion, than basic square foot cost. But if you don't recognize them now, because none of your cost estimates so far directly, in my opinion, address either of these issues. It's not to say the numbers are wrong. I think they're light, actually. The sooner you do it, you're going to have an idea of which options are perhaps the ones the town should consider. If you do it at the end, you might miss something. In fact, you probably will. It should be an ongoing process, my recommendation.
Got it. Right, we'll talk about that and see what you can incorporate into the next presentation. Any other comments? Anyone online? I don't think anybody's online. Okay. Anyone online that wants to comment, raise your hand and we can promote you. All right. Thank you. Moving on to item G, old business. We have an update from the Stakeholder Engagement Subcommittee.
So, we got the results, the responses from the faculty survey ended on Friday. So we do not have a final report to pass out today, but we did get 57 out of 97 people responded, which is a great response rate.
The video's running through your computer right now.
I mean, like I said, it's not final yet, we're still working on putting it together, but some of it connects to what we're talking about tonight, which is interesting.
Thank you guys for running that.
So we created just a summary, an early summary based upon the results. We have to still tweak a couple of things just to do that, but we tried to take the data and summarize it into a way that made it make sense based upon not just looking at a spreadsheet. Because there were a lot of different columns and a lot of different responses. And so we are going to try and create a good snapshot of that information to provide to everybody on the task force, which will then end up.
And so what we'd like to do is send everybody this summary, but we would also send you the data, because we got a lot of comments. We asked people to explain their answers, and they did. And so there's a lot of comments to read through. That won't all be reflected completely in the summary. So we'll send you the summary, but we will also send you the data, so you can read as much of that as you want.
When do you think, is that something I should leave time for discussion on during the next meeting, which will be again in the middle of July?
Yeah, I mean, we would hope to send it out before then.
Okay.
We'd like to distribute to the commission before then, but yeah, I mean, certainly discuss it at that point.
Okay. Sounds great.
Yeah, there's no 2-week turnaround this time, so, yeah.
Yeah,
There's gonna be plenty of time for everybody to get it. and
Well,
look
that's,
at it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got like 5 weeks, so,
Yeah, but we hope to get this out.
Well, in advance.
Yeah.
Within like a week or two.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Yeah. 'Cause we
Save
just-
time for your homework, everybody.
Right. Then we can be ready for the next.
Sounds great. Any discussion for the?
Nothing.
Great. The task force meeting schedule. So as I mentioned earlier, in the meeting, we already established this. This rolls into item H as well. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, July 16th, be here at Antolini at 7 p.m. We are also adding a meeting to Thursday, August 20th, also here at Antolini at 7 p.m. Those will be updated on the website. And everybody should have calendar invites. So let's do that. With that, moving on to item I, which is the executive session to look at just some other configuration options. Thank you all. Good night. It for the crowd. I do not expect us to take any action coming out of the meeting, but if we do, I will send you the information and the motions or anything like that will be included in the minutes from here. Thanks, everybody.
So do I end this?
Yep, we're good. I'm gonna
Make a motion
stop.
to go into
Oh,
executive
yep.
session.
Can we make a motion to go into executive session?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? That's unanimous at 8:33.
Can we shut the door on the way out, please?
So I can shut this off, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You can leave the call, but if you've got something, there you go. And then,
Thank you. End the call for everyone. Call is ended.